Before we get started, I have a question for all of you. What do you think is the difference between a remake and a remaster? Let me know in the comments. I'm asking because Nintendo and Retro Studios recently remastered Metroid Prime on the Switch, so I figured I would do a comparison of how the game looked on the Wii U and how it looked on the Switch, but I also decided to take my ROM that I ripped myself and throw it on my Steam Deck in order to see how Primehack compares to both of these versions. Now, while I'm showing you the comparisons, I figured I would talk about what Primehack has done and what Nintendo themselves has done in order to improve the game from its origin on the GameCube. One of my favorite games of all time is Metroid Prime. When Nintendo first announced the game, the fans of the series were really skeptical about whether or not they could make the transition from a 2D side-scroller to a first-person shooter. Now, calling Metroid Prime a first-person shooter is always kind of felt odd to me, as the game never really controlled like a first-person shooter. At least it didn't on the GameCube. That being said, it's still a fantastic game, and there is a reason that it has a 97 on Metacritic. I love the game so much that I have purchased every single version of it. I had it on the GameCube, I bought it again on the Wii, and then I bought it on the Trilogy. But then the game has always been hampered by Nintendo's weird control choices. Real quick, I wanted to mention that I'm a Humble Bundle partner, and they have a bunch of bundles available right now on their website, as well as Humble Choice. So if you want to save some money on games, support charity, and at the same time directly support my channel, click on my link in the description and check out Humble Bundle. Okay, let's get back to Metroid. What exactly is it that Primehack does that improves upon the original game? Now, first off, this is not limited to the Steam Deck, but that's where I ended up playing Primehack. Primehack introduces a whole bunch of new graphical options, which includes field of view modifiers, and they also changed how the way some models look so that they don't appear distorted on higher field of views. They also have full view model adjustment. They've re-enabled the secondary weapon effects that existed in the GameCube and were for some reason removed in the Trilogy release on the Wii U. They disabled bloom, they disabled culling, which means that you can get more objects on the screen at once, and they've also made a bloom offset reduction in order to help with exaggerated bloom effects on upscaled internal resolutions. They also gave us customizable crosshair for the GameCube versions of the game. Alright, so that's how Primehack overhauls the graphics of the game, but really the whole point of Primehack was to give traditional controls a way to deal with Nintendo's weird design decisions when it came to how Metroid Prime controls. They added in native mouse aiming directly from D input or X input 2 on Linux. They added in 2-stick controller support and a bind table for camera controls. They also gave us new options to control and select weapons with hotkeys instead of having to hold down a button and move your cursor towards the top, side, or bottom of the screen. They have native cursor controls for menus and new controls for motion control segments such as levers, spring ball, and grapple lasso. And the best change, if you ask me, is that they changed all of the input glyphs so that when the game asks you to press A, you don't have to mentally remember that they mean B, because Nintendo has X, A, B, Y in different places than Xbox controllers and Steam Deck and pretty much everybody else out there. So when Primehack asks you to press A, they mean the A button on your Steam Deck, and it works fantastically well. Okay, that's what Primehack did for Metroid. So what did Nintendo and Retro Studios do for this remaster? Well, first off, they totally overhauled the graphics and everything in the game looks fantastic. I'm really impressed with what they were able to do with the Switch, which was dated hardware when it released back in 2017 and is really showing its age. But Nintendo and Retro did a fantastic job here. They also overhauled the controls so you can play the game without Primehacks, but it still feels like a shooter now. now. They gave us the option to play with the original GameCube controls, with Wii controls, or with a hybrid of the two. Now, I've tried all of the different control options with the remaster, and even though I do love gyro, it feels kind of weird on the Switch because there's no activation for gyro, it's just always on. So I felt like there were plenty of times where my cursor was pointed not where I was expecting it to. This is why you need to have capacitive thumbsticks on controllers from here on out. Valve, you did it right. I hope everybody steals from you. So the remaster is overall really awesome, but I do wish that they had done a few things differently. For instance, save points in Metroid games tend to be pretty far apart. Autosave would be fantastic, so whenever you pick up a new upgrade or you're about to enter a boss fight, just autosave the game. I know that that isn't how Metroid traditionally works, but just because something has always been a certain way doesn't mean that that's the best way to do it. One thing that Metroid Dread did really well is give the players the ability to put markers on the map. I wish that Metroid Prime Remastered had also done this. It would be amazing to notice a bombable spot somewhere in the world and drop a marker, that way it would show up on your map. Or to say, don't come back here until you have the grapple arm, because I've headed back to a room multiple times that I can't progress through without the grapple arm. The world of Talent 4 is incredibly labyrinthian, and it is really hard to remember the places that you've gone, and while the map will highlight rooms that you've been in, there's nothing there to indicate why I haven't moved on to the next section yet. So it would be awesome if I could mark why I haven't moved past that room. But complaints aside, this is the most time that I have spent on my Switch since Switch Sports came out in April, so I think overall they did a really great job. Now, I'm sure that there's going to be people out here asking me, how does the remaster run on the Steam Deck? I've seen other videos that show you how to get it working well, but I couldn't get any kind of decent performance out of it. I tried using Yuzu and I was stuck at 30 frames per second, but it didn't feel like 30 frames per second. It felt like Samus was walking through some kind of sludge. It was not a good experience. Now, if you've purchased the game and you want to emulate it on your Steam Deck, then what you should probably do is install Power Tools. You can easily do that using Decky Loader. I'll link a video in the description on how to do that. And while installing Power Tools will give you more control over the hardware, which is very important when emulating Switch games, there is a bit of a risk as this requires you to give root access to Power Tools, and that is a no from me. Not that it matters anyway, as I bought the game on the Switch and the game plays and looks great on there. Anyway, what do you guys think of the comparisons, and what is your favorite version of Metroid Prime? Speaking of favorites, some of my favorite people are patrons and channel members, so thank you to all of you so much for supporting my channel. From the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everyone.